We recently came across this artist and I had to share him with you all. Karl Hasenpflug from Germany in the 1850s, right primed in the middle of the reset time. And what his art was drawing was amazing cathedrals in the places that he was at. And this supposedly wasn't even his main skill. But I guess he did it in pen, and then he went over it with oil paint, supposedly, for most of his artworks, which you'll see. I've got a great collection here. But wow, in general, this building, my God, the things in Germany, the buildings all over Germany, there is no way that they are just purely decorative. Those, of course, had an immense purpose at some point, and it definitely wasn't working and functioning at the time of this painting. But this artist, like many other artists, is known for adding the spiritual to it and connecting them, knowing that they were both these ruins, the spirituality, the thought process, the imagination, knowing that was one way of exploring these. This artist, I just can tell his mindset, and it seems absolutely amazing. I guarantee, being around at that time, he went so deep into it. And look at these buildings. They are absolutely incredible in this artwork. Perfect. Such amazing capturing of light, his skies, everything. Just structurally awesome. Absolutely nailing it all. And the fact that they say that he drew it in ink and then he covered over it with oil makes me wonder, if there was they had to have been some form of tracing-ish technique, because although when you compare some of them to the original buildings, there's certain details, tiny bits that are left out because it's almost impossible to capture the structure. But this guy pretty much absolutely nailed it to almost to a photographic extent in level of detail, and almost better. So I wonder, what if there is a particular camera obscura or lucida technique that they use, or something totally different. But if he's just looking at it and then looking at these buildings and sketching them and then doing them just like that by hand, all by hand, just standing there, and then that is absolutely phenomenal. And if he's I don't know, maybe they had other ways of capture. There's no way of telling really how he did it, but there's very little information out there on him. But these scenes he captured are absolutely breathtaking, and they just depict this world that had no idea where these things were coming from. And in the 1850s, no clue where these ancient buildings came from. The stories have just been traced like a massive game of telephone since the dawn of time. And every day it gets more and more out of whack. While certain people are digging to try and find it and trying to looking at what's been said and what's been done, there's others that it's so out of whack. And when we look at these and we just think that the church built them, I think those people miss a massive part of what reality is all about. And I really do think that there's something special and magic about the not knowing part of it. They just flat out admitting that I have no idea. I don't think it's the church. I don't think anything. I think so much. I can't settle on one thing. This is something he did a lot of. These next scenes that you're going to see, we're going to go from outside to kind of under the archways, and this is one series that he did, which is just beautiful, again. But sorry for jumping around so much. But these buildings, again, it's better to not know and to admit that you don't know, because the potential is just everywhere. Were they machines? Were they kinetic? Were they covered in even more detail? Metals, gold, precious, everything. So much more detail than we can have and imagine. Did they have a power? Did they have an energy field around them? Did they emit something amazing? What were they like in their prime? And more importantly, what were the people like during the time that these were being built and these were being released? And, from just judging from the processions that we've seen during different remaining times, what were these unveilings of these master buildings like? Or were they just like unveiling a nuclear power plant nowadays or something they didn't even care about at that time, because they've decimated so many buildings that we don't even get a clue of how apparent these buildings were during these times. And these ruins have just gradually come down and down and down from the peak of whenever that greatness was, whatever timeline it was. And I have a feeling a lot of the timelines we know about and have heard about and have been taught about are just complete baloney. And All of these had a masterful prime, and imagine how many people were around during that time, all over the world, all over the realm, however far it went. Were we connected with outer realms and just easily destroyed everything at one point. Went around, swept this place clean of anything that could be used to discover the truth beyond the poles and our prison. But wow, I really respect this beautiful artist for drawing these, because he just, and again, these are combined with a little bit of fantasy from his imagination and what he was visualizing. So I think the architectural aspects are very accurate, but certain other details are embellished and kind of given an incredible tone. I don't know, something about him. He knew that these buildings had a power and had a lost history and had a mystery that they weren't being told. And, maybe he heard from different people, like in the 1830s, 1850s, imagine what their grandparents told them. And they were probably living to be extra long, and so few things survive in these worlds. From the prime of this, there were apparently, in order to create all these buildings all over the world, there must have been billions and billions of people, and all over the place, and I'm sure perfectly sustainably at one point in time when all things were in harmony and working, and these buildings were firing off with the ether all over the place, everything, metals, energy, everyone healthy, nuts. If that time did exist, which I believe it did, which all of these buildings lead towards the theory that at one point these things were immaculate, if all of that had happened, then it's capable again, and beyond the realm there's more. And these artists kind of try to feel it, try to sense the power. We can all sense the loss of something absolutely spectacular, and just the muzzle, our spiritual muzzling. And since all these things were destroyed, and we if all these things were around and they were everywhere, and if only what we see is probably such a low percentage of what was once here, especially if places like the Rockies and Sahara were all civilized, then wow, who's to tell what and how perfect this whole place was. And just, I guarantee it was so many more people than we can even imagine. When you consider the places, we've covered a lot of cities and covered a lot of things with a ton, just absolute mess of people all over the world, but there's a lot of open space everywhere, and ruins in many of them. So who knows, potential ruins. But either way, I wanted to introduce you all to this artwork and just ramble on about different potential possibilities for all these different possible pasts, which we continue to dive through and must eventually dig towards, and must eventually have people blow the whistle from their historical Smithsonian and Vatican sites, upload all this stuff so that we can all learn and progress in a beautiful way. Why would you not do that? Why are we not living in a time where all information that is available is able to be accessed and able to be sifted through and able to rewrite things based on truth instead of corporate greed and blah, blah, blah. So that's, I guess, the reason, but enjoy. This artwork right here is also, I captured the real picture of this place coming up, so it's going to turn into that. And take a look. This, you can see some tiny details, and I can tell from drawing architecture too that there's certain times and certain things that you just can't get because they're so small, and it would be impossible to really draw those fine details. But look at, so this is kind of the real perspective of that place, and big difference in the way the people and everything is. And that's one thing that just, beyond seeing what the architecture would look like in its prime, what were the people like? How many different races, giants, how many different sizes, how many different, was it like Star Wars times with all these different people of all different things, all different dresses, all different beliefs, all different everythings, colors galore. They try to put all those, like the color patterns out there today into the scene, but back in the day, those old school dresses and things that people were wearing were so beautiful, so much more elaborate, so much more artistic, so much more just designed in a pure way. And so we can't really fathom the people during all these times, and the animals, and were the animals created by that people at the prime, or what animals were existing? What were they doing? What were they eating? I'm curious. What were they eating? Who knows? I love theorizing all this stuff. Love finding artists that help in the theory, help with the imagination, help build the vision and the database in our heads of just potential thoughts and potential ideas. And they definitely put secrets out. So look at those artworks again. Thank you, Karl Hasenpflug, however you pronounce your name. Beautiful art. Hope his family's still keeping it going. Bless you all. Have a great one.